All right, I propose that we begin. It's about 1:05. People are still coming, but they will enter directly. So again, this presentation is recorded. Hello, everyone. This is your captain speaking, Alain Renaudin, Business Development Director from C2MI. I always dream to say this. That's why I say this. Welcome aboard for the flight for how innovation can drive sustainability in digital technology. So a couple of rules before the takeoff. Seatbelt, for sure. Mic off, please. Your cam off if you're not a speaker. So again, this slide will be recorded, so you will have access to all the video afterwards. And please refer to the Q&A section if you have any question. We will take the questions at the end of each presentation. So let me present you our renowned crew today, our speakers. So in that sequence of presentation, again, about 15 minutes presentation, including the questions, we will have Thomas de Kiev from C2MI, Anne Desgagnés from SDTC, Mr. André Levasseur from Ranovus, Richard Williston, aka Rick from OSCP, One Silicon Chip Photonics, Mahmoud Shirazi from Kalogi Solution, and I'll be your animation guide today for this presentation. So maybe a very quick word about C2MI, so the Center of Collaboration in Micro Innovation. Innovation and collaboration are actually two of the main value of C2MI. We just help companies accelerating growth from the prototyping to the production, thanks to international expertise, state-of-the-art equipment, and a collaborative ecosystem with more than 400 companies. One of our slogans is reinventing innovation, or how to bring the future today. And speaking about the future, I don't know if you have the time to check the fixed reports from IPCC on Monday, clearly clarifying the urgency or the emergency to put actions in terms of microelectronics as an example. So for this specific area, please welcome Thomas de Kiev that will show us how C2MI can help in that area. So Thomas de Kiev, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so do you hear me well, everybody?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, so hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be here today to talk about how innovation can and must drive the sustainable change for digital technologies, and to present you what the C2MI plans to do to support its ecosystem to tackle down microelectronic devices' environmental footprints. So the Micro Innovation Collaborative Center is a Canadian leader in the development of microelectronic manufacturing processes. The C2MI is dedicated to accelerate the commercialization of innovative products. We are a one-stop shop specialized in processes development relies on production toolset for microelectronic mechanical system, or MEMS, for advanced packaging, optoelectronic assembly, imprinted electronic, and we also have capabilities of reliability testing, failure analysis, and material and electrical characterization. Innovation is the main solution to address the future challenges to be faced by industries, government, and society. That's why C2MI focuses on the next disruptive innovations. Today, one of the main challenges is the need to converge the environmental transition with the digital transformation of our society. That's why C2MI has an eco-responsible initiative team. C2MI eco-responsible initiative team is the application of sustainable development concepts to our products and services. My colleague, Louis Bren, who is VP President with Vice President Financial and Sustainable Development, is responsible of the overall corporation social responsibility of the organization, where the initiative is implemented. And I am leading the application of sustainable development concepts to C2MI products and service, aiming to tackle down ecological footprints of microelectronic devices and sharing expertise and providing solutions to the ecosystem. Although there are several environmental impacts associated to the semiconductor industry and information and telecommunication technologies, or ICTs, I will mainly focus on global warming on this talk, as it has been highlighted as a priority. Global warming is a greenhouse gas emission crisis. According to the International Energy Agency, the main contributor to global CO2 emission are energy production and industrial processes. They reached their highest ever annual level in 2021, with 36.3 gigatons, accounting for more than 60% of global greenhouse gas emission. Canada has signed the Paris Agreement, where the long-term goal is to keep the global average temperature increase below 2 degrees C compared to pre-industrial levels, and preferably limit the increase to 1.5 degrees C. The Paris Agreement also targets that the overall greenhouse gas emission should reach net zero by 2050. As Canada and Quebec signed the Paris Agreement, they have pledged to achieve net zero by 2050. And they also have set intermediary targets by reducing its greenhouse gas emission by 40 to 35% below 2025 level for the federal government, and to reduce its greenhouse gas emission by 37.5% by 2030 compared to the 1990 level for the Quebecian government. So where does greenhouse gas comes from in the digital industries? Today, we're using millions of data centers, tens and hundreds of millions network edge, and billions of connected objects. Everything related to cloud computing, data center, AI, the use phase is responsible for more than 99% of the greenhouse gas emission of these devices. This greenhouse gas comes from the production of energies that are needed to use this device. For everything related to connected object or IoT, it's about 80% of emissions that comes from the manufacturing of this device. Greenhouse gas mainly comes from the industrial processes and the energy needed to operate the manufacturing facilities. And now it is commonly accepted that the overall ICT industries is responsible from 2 to 5% of the overall greenhouse gas emission. But what can we expect in the future? So, as you all know, technology encourages our growing individual appetite for data consumption, and it is expected that the global data creation will increase 10 times by 2035. So what will be the need in energies to create and manage these data? So the chart you're looking is the forecast of energy consumption by the global ICT industries from 2010 to 2030. As the demand for internet and mobile phone traffic would soar, along with the need of additional connected objects, the ICT industries could lead to an explosion in energy consumption up to 21% by 2030, increasing its share in global warming emitter. And according to the Semiconductor Research Corporation, even starting to 2040 with the current trends and technology, computing or communication itself could reach the world energy production. So, since hope is not a strategy, what's the plan? So, of course, the answer is more innovation. The world's largest foundries and semiconductor manufacturers have published targets, but it's not enough. For the moment, demand is outpacing our ability to innovate to reduce the environmental footprint of microelectronic devices and achieve the targets. As the semiconductor industry grows, its footprints also increase. So there are specific concerns such as processed gases, the water consumption and raw material during manufacturing, the overall energy use for ICT manufacturing or their usage, but also a lot of regulatory change in the US and in Europe. And of course, we have to take into account that with innovation cycle of around 10 years, now it's the time we should be developing and accelerate the commercialization of products to address the need and the challenge of 2030 and even 2050. So far, the demand is outpacing the world ability to innovate and reduce the environmental footprints of the ICT. We need to invest in innovation now, and we need to go faster. So what we plan to do? At C2MI, we want to address the environmental footprints of microelectronic devices by acquiring and providing its ecosystem with expertise and developing more sustainable manufacturing processes using science-based tools. The two tools we are using are life cycle analysis and greenhouse gas inventory. So we have partnered with the LIRID, which is the interdisciplinary research laboratory in sustainable and engineering eco-design from the University of Sherbrooke. They will provide assessment of the environmental impacts and of activities and processes on a selection of possible indicators such as global warming and water depletion or human or ecosystem toxicity of processes we can use for semiconductor manufacturing. Also, they will help us to create a decision support tool, kind of simplified life cycle analysis to determine the priority processes to be developed or replaced by clean technologies or clean processes. And they will also provide eco-design training to our engineers. We'll also use greenhouse gas inventory and reporting. We will use the greenhouse gas protocol, as this is the standard for measuring and reporting emissions. It's the most used method and the common carbon accounting framework. It concerns the main greenhouse gas, such as CO2, CH4, HFC, N2O, all the PFCs and SF6 that are widely used in semiconductor industries. So why will we use this tool for? And today I'm very happy to share with you the first C2MI roadmaps dedicated to support the Canadian ecosystem to tackle down digital technology footprints. As you know, the government has targets net zero by 2050. So the C2MI will also target to be carbon neutral on direct and indirect emissions by 2050. Sorry. We also have set targets by 2030 where we pledge to be carbon neutral on indirect emissions. And we will announce later this year that the C2MI will join the Environment and Climate Change Canada Net Zero Challenges. Between 2023 and 2024, we'll have our life cycle analysis report released, and we'll have a simplified life cycle analysis tools available at C2MI for its ecosystem. By 2024, we want to have eco-responsible critical innovation identified and implemented in its C2MI roadmaps. We're talking about development of enabling technologies such as silicon photonics. We're talking about projects to reduce the need of raw material per unit produced, substitution of raw materials for less polluting substitutes, and the reduction of energy and water consumption per unit produced. We believe that the C2MI will propose an efficient model to accelerate commercialization of clean tech to help its innovative ecosystem to tackle down the ecological footprints of microelectronic devices. As I said, digital technologies environment footprint is increasing, and the demand is outpacing the actual ability to innovate to reduce the environmental footprints of the digital industry. At C2MI, we will offer science-based toolset to target priority innovation and to valorize clean technologies. We also offer an ecosystem to support and accelerate the development of disruptive innovation. And we also offer possibility to collaborate between industrial and academic on eco-responsible innovation. Thank you for your attention, and of course, for more information about our current and future projects, as well as to discuss possible collaboration, do not hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you very much, Thomas. A lot of very interesting informations. I see that the flight will have maybe some turbulence in the next couple of years. Do you have any question for Thomas? I see that in the Q&A or in the conversation, there's no questions. I might have one. You have maybe mentioned scope 1, 2, indirect, direct. Would you mind just clarifying what it is?
Yes, so when you do your inventory of greenhouse gas emission, what we say about direct emission are greenhouse gas emitted at the site of your organization. Indirect emission are greenhouse gas emitted by your supplier of energy. Let's say you are in Quebec and you are using energy from Hydro-Quebec. So at the power plant of Hydro-Quebec, they emit some greenhouse gases. So these are indirect emission due to the energy you're using at your organization.
Nice. Okay. Thank you very much. So is there any question related to Thomas' presentation? I do not see questions in the participant. All right, so that's a direct link with the fact that the path won't be so easy. So let's say that we have tools that we can use, leverage maybe money as well. So that's exactly a good timing to talk about SDTC. Indeed, Anne, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alan, and thank you,
You're
Thomas,
welcome.
can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And Thomas, for explaining what the problem ahead is. So with the increase of devices, we'll likely have an increase of energy, and this is going to need to be addressed. So I work for SDTC. My name is Anne Desgagnés, Sustainable Development Technologies Canada, and I'm the ecosystem lead for Quebec. So I'll share my presentation. Okay, I think you all see that. So Sustainable Development Technology Canada, who we are. So we are an independent federal foundation. We are a funding agency. We are the largest clean tech funder in Canada. We deploy about 200 million a year, spread between the provinces. Quebec normally gets 25 to 33% of that funding. And what's very interesting about us is that we offer non-dilutive funding. So we're talking complete grants. But we exist. So I'm a federal program, which means I have the flexibility of a concrete box. But if you do fill into my box, I have a very interesting sandbox. We exist for one reason, to invest in Canadian SMEs from pre-revenue to pre-dividend. If you're paying dividend to your shareholders, you don't need us anymore. So Canadian SMEs who develop or own innovative technology. So the technological aspect is extremely important. We're going to be looking for patents and IP strategy for sure. It could be trade secrets, of course, or data lakes, data clouds, but this is very important for us. And the third important criteria is that that technology needs to lead to environmental benefits in a very wide sense. So, of course, reduction of greenhouse gases, clean water, clean soil, clean air. I'll look into that. I'll dip into that. So we invest throughout Canada, Ontario, BC, and Quebec getting the lion's share, but we are everywhere in Canada. What I want you to remember, it's frozen for a reason. Let's see, so it might work like that. Okay. I'll present it like that. What I want you to remember, we are in every sector. So we're sector agnostic. Provided there's technology and provided we can see environmental benefits, will be there. We are in textile, we are in agro, we are in smart cities, transportation, batteries, industrial processes, advanced materials, Internet of Things, AI, logistics. So we are everywhere. If your solution brings environmental benefit, you can really think about us. We've changed recently how we looked at the environmental benefits. We're putting that into 3 large categories. So the first one is climate change. That's fairly, it's self-explanatory. The second one is circular economy. That could be recycling of batteries, waste reduction, anything that looked into that will go into the circular economy. And the last category is quite broad. It's called people, nature, and community. So any agro, food security, smart cities solutions would fall into that. What I forgot to mention is that the environmental benefits need to be quantifiable. So you need to be able to show, if you were to take 10% of the market share, how many tons would be avoided? So I'm not your typical VC. I'm not going to get rich. I really exist to propel the Canadian entrepreneurs in the clean tech sector. And we really hope to make Canadian leaders and hopefully to have them shine internationally. So that's very important for us. We have 3 streams of funding because we're trying to be to meet the investors where the entrepreneurs where they are. So we have a seed fund, which is providing small $50,000 to $100,000 grants. I'll talk about it a bit later on. We have our startup fund, which is the one that has been in existence for about 20 years, and 80% of our financing is that. And recently we launched a scale-up fund for companies that are already commercial but are still doing R&D and innovation. So those are the 3 funds. Okay, I'm going to go deeper into our medium fund, which is where most of our activity is happening. So we offer non-dilutive grants between $1 to $10 million per project. We need to see an R&D project, and of that project, I can finance a third. So at a minimum, the projects shown to me start at 3 million up to 30 million. And I will take a third of that. So between 1 to 10 million, and I said 20 million in our growth fund. We finance a third of that. As I said, I need to finance a project. So normally the TRL are between 3 to 8. We take you up to commercialization. If you're full commercial, you don't need us anymore, but we need to see some traction, and you can come and see us many times. So you go from TRL 4 to 6, it's completed, you succeeded. Now you need to move to do a first pilot plan, for example. That's going to be $12 million. You can come and see us again up until we get to commercialization. SDTC finances a third of project value. We accept government stacking up to 70%. So if there were to be some municipal provincial funds, it can go up to 70%. That means two things. First, then the 30% remaining needs to be private. So either from your investors, your revenues, but we need to see some skin in the game from the private sector. And for your information, in Quebec, I have a partnership with Technoclimat, which is kind of my provincial counterpart. So 60% of the deals we finance in Quebec, we do jointly with Technoclimat. We even have a joint application form that goes to both organizations, and hopefully that simplifies things for entrepreneurs and gets you 2 checks at the end. Applying with us takes 4 to 6 months, but we go in stages. So we're not making you work all the way. You know, you get told, yes, this is interesting. Please come and present at a video conference. And after the video conference, we invite you to submit a detailed proposal. So we hold you by the hand, hopefully, until the financing. And you need to submit an application with a consortium partner. Consortium partner is we need to see commercial traction. So somebody that says, yes, this solution really answers the need I have. I will do the pilot with them, or I would be willing to try or buy their biofuel. So we need to see some partners that you're helping, basically. So those are some of the companies we finance. We have about 200 companies in our portfolio, so that's just a tiny sampling. Some of them came from C2MI, but we're doing traceability, we're doing mining, we're doing a lot of concrete. So we're in every possible sector where we can gain environmental benefits. I'm going to say a quick word about the seed fund, which is the baby fund, because depending on where you're at in your financing journey, this might be very interesting. The seed fund makes grant between $50,000 to $100,000 in 8 weeks. It's a very light, easy, fast process. We have about 4 rounds a year, but we've added 2 criteria to: you need to be Canadian, you need to have innovation that will lead to environmental benefits. The first criteria is that you need to be nominated by an accelerator. So I've made a little map here. We have partnership with 60 accelerators across the country, and we keep adding them. But the accelerators are the one nominating the company. And you need to have raised a little bit of equity. We don't have time to do a financial due diligence, so we piggyback on an investment. So you need to have raised at least $100,000 to qualify. I'm not saying the program is perfect, but we're really trying to hit 100 companies per year that we're financing through that program. Here are some of the accelerators we work with in Quebec. So those are all accelerators that could nominate you to the seed fund if you have worked with them. And finally, I wanted to show you some of the companies we'd find in the seed fund, but I forgot that slide. So that was my presentation.
Thank you very much. And what a powerful tool we have here. So any question for Anne? So just to be transparent, we will. So the session is recorded. The presentation will be shared as well. So any question regarding Anne's presentation? I don't see any. There's one. Is SMEs are included in the possibility to be part of this project?
We only finance SMEs, so 500 employees and less. If you're a big Suncor, or if you're profitable to the point that you're paying dividends, you're too big for us. But so we go from pre-revenue to pre-dividend, but you can have revenues. We've even financed companies with $50 million revenues, but they are still doing R&D. They are still working on their V2 or big innovation projects. So we'll help them with that.
So as an example, I'm a startup company. I'm working with SMEs. Can I go to you as well?
Sorry, I missed that.
I'm a startup company. I'm working with SMEs as a client. Can I go to see you?
Absolutely. We consider a startup company being an SME. So.
All right. Okay. Great. So does anybody have any question? That's the time we have Anne online. That's the time to talk to her. I do not see any question. So what about checking the fact that using this tool can be interesting with people that have used this tool? So let's speak about a few companies that have the chance to work with SDTC, beginning by Ranovus company with our speaker today, André Levasseur. André, I will give you the possibility to share your presentation. That's done. So now, if you don't mind opening maybe your camera, and you have the possibility to share your document.
Go. And let me just open the camera.
I mean, if you're still in pajama, you might have the choice not to share it.
No, I had time to dress up. So can you see my presentation, Anna?
Yes, we are seeing it in okay. Not in a diaporama mode, but we are seeing it.
Okay, great. So hello, thank you everyone for allowing me to introduce our company, Renovus. And as you can see from my title, I'm the CFO, so this will not be an engineering or technical presentation. It'll be more a business / technology and financing angle that I want to bring to the group here today. So my first slide here delves right into the topic that Alan and Thomas and Anne presented. The biggest problem, one of the biggest problems we have on planet Earth is the need to reduce greenhouse gas, and United Nations reminded that to us yesterday. And in the last 10 years of my career, I've been focused in clean tech / high tech. And the problem that Renovus is trying to address is the energy consumption of data centers. And they are, what we call the modern factory. When I was a little boy, it was in the town I grew up in, there were so many factories. Sometimes on a sunny day, you couldn't even see the sky because there was so many factories emitting GHGs. Nowadays, the factories are data centers. And as Thomas rightly pointed out, they consume a huge amount of energy, which creates GHG. So the key sound bites that Renovus brings to solve this problem is that we work on what's called data movement. So what we do is optical interconnect. So basically, we take the information from one chip, move it to another chip, a memory chip, to another computer, using light. So instead of using electricity or electrons, we move that data through light. And that reduces, and I have a couple of slides to show you this, the consumption of data movement, which is one of the major contributors to energy consumption, by about 75%. And we recently were at a big show in San Diego, and we presented our latest product, and it was it wowed the Silicon Valley partners that we're working with. So and what's really driving the market and GHGs is artificial intelligence. So AI and ML are driving the need for compute to levels that are beyond exponential. Right now, the capability of compute in data centers is very much insufficient for the demand and the need. So, and what you need foremost is to be able to transport that data, from one within the server and between servers. And electrons are, the bottleneck. So you introduce photons to the party, and you move information at the speed of light. And the secret sauce, and I'll show this a bit later, is you need disruptive technology. And what we have integrated is a monolithic chip, which has an embedded laser within the chip. So our chip is a silicon photonic chip. So it converts electrons into photons, and then the laser within the chip will emit light and transport that data into a fiber connection. And we've done a little bit of work with IBM, that's right across the street from C2MI, and with C2MI on this. So this technology is a world's first. that we began showcasing last year at what's called OFC. And I invite the participants to log on to the OFC website. And we just came back from OFC and presented the world's first on the lowest power interconnect chip that currently exists. So, and we're really, really proud of that. So that's just to kind of introduce what we do in Renovis. My next slide is basically to give a bit of detail on the company, but I wanted to take a moment to share with you our experience with SDTC. So our history dates back about 10 years. And in 2013, we had our first project with SDTC. And since we had 3 projects in all, and the last one ended in 2021, SDTC was one of the key anchors for our company. We did get some early funding from BDC and EDC, and but you know our project and our technology requires patient money, and SDTC helped us, gave us the time to develop world-class products. We are now working with Silicon Valley, major players in Silicon Valley, and this would not have been possible without 6-7 years ago the support we got from SDTC. And there were times where the projects were late, the technology wasn't working as it should. You know, with normal VCs, it could have been a problem. With SDTC, we worked together, we resolved a lot of the issues. It's R&D, so it's not, you know, things don't always happen as you plan them. And SDTC was extremely supportive, gave us a few extensions, and then we went on to a couple more projects with SDTC, and we were able to, with the non-dilutive funding, keep the company Canadian owned, because the amount of money required for the technology we're developing is quite significant. And with the help of SDTC, we're able to not always go to VCs for funding. It helped us keep the Renovis Canadian, and also to increase the value of the company. And now we've attracted strategic investors that are also customers, major companies in California. So I would say the SDTC, they play the long game. They are extremely supportive, and they've got technology people that actually can assist us in terms of strategy and roadmap when it comes to sustainability. And also having SDTC in your portfolio helps when you're going through due diligence with different investors, because SDTC will go through some due diligence to ensure that your project, you know, achieves the objectives that Anne mentioned. And when you're an SDTC portfolio company, it gives a lot of credibility to your company. So I'm a big fan of SDTC, I guess, I've just the comments I've just said. So the company is basically just quickly located in Ottawa. So we're just across the river from Quebec. We've got a few employees that actually reside in Quebec, and we've also got an R&D center in Germany. We're in all about 125 people, and we a lot of the people that work at Renovis came from the ecosystem in Ottawa, basically Nortel and BlackBerry, JDS Uniphase, a lot of the very big companies that were very successful about 25-30 years ago. You know, they have changed and morphed into different organizations, but we've picked up a lot of the very senior, a lot of PhDs from those companies, and of course we recruit a lot from McGill, from Université de Sherbrooke, from University of Ottawa, McMaster. So we've got we have a internship program that develops a lot of the new talent that's required. And as I mentioned, our target market is really what goes on in the data centers. And the key technologies I've just also alluded to are silicon photonics, high speed, and advanced packaging. And these things take 7 to 8 years to bloom into revenue, which we have began doing at Renovis. My next slide. And here's the management team. Just wanted to quickly show we have a diverse background, international team, and but a lot of the folks come from companies that you're quite very much familiar with. So you need, and this is one of the key things that SDTC will look at, how solid is the management team, and can they do what they say they will do? Do they have roadmaps, etc.? At least in our case, it was important to show that we had the management team to be able to take the projects forward. And I invite everyone to look at the last week. Our CEO Hamid was in at OFC, which is the biggest optical show, trade show and conference in the world. We were asked to present at the panel with some of the biggest names in the industry, and these are all billion-dollar companies, and we were a startup. Now we're what I guess one could say a scale up, because we are starting to generate revenue, and we are on the same stage as all these companies. And again, SDTC helped enable us to get to this level, and we're really proud to be invited to these conferences and to share our expertise, which generates, of course, a lot of interest and a lot of new customers as well. And here's what I was saying. This is, what we bring to the party is massive power reduction in optical interconnect. So basically, movement of data between the different boards on a server. And there are many technical details here that we could spend hours going through, but the objective of my slide is just to explain how, and the theme of this presentation in this webinar is innovation driving sustainable change. There's no more better example than reducing the power consumption of transmitting data. And we know the cloud and the internet, it's all about transporting data. So using the fastest way known to man, which is light, at the speed of light, to use Alan's expression at the beginning. So we're powering this thing with light and going at the speed of light, like the spaceship that Alan is flying through, I guess. And just to bring it all home, one of the key features you'll notice here on the chip, we're bringing the interconnect and the fiber right beside the chip, as opposed to on the back plane or on the backboard. And with and this technology is called co-package optics. You see here the blue, which is small. You reduce the requirement of energy of optoelectronics to in the interconnect field to this, compared to this here. So the reduction of energy requirements is massive, and the volume deployment of this technology is going to begin in 2024, but really hit its stride in 2025. And AI and machine learning is just powering the market for this. So we're running right now to be able to meet the market demand, and hiring people and engineers is just there's too much demand for the capacity of the ecosystem right now, where we need very sophisticated engineers and partners as well that are working on these products. They need to have the engineering talent as well. So resourcing the development of this technology is a challenge as well. But every major innovation that has come in the last 25, 30 years has had the same issue. So we're happy to be part of the solution to reduce greenhouse gases, and the industry is very serious about reducing its carbon footprint. We're in discussions with Amazon, and it's one of the key criteria reasons they're talking to us. So anyway, so that's I believe that is all me done, Alan.
Great, thank you very much, Andre. That shows how curvy can the road be or the flight can be regarding innovation and the help of STDC. So I'm glad that STDC had so much impact, let's say.
Absolutely.
And as Anne de Gagne say, they might hire you as a good vendor of it. Thanks, Anne, for these comments. I think going through this road, I'm exciting to share with you the next speaker that will be. Oh, so is there any question regarding Andre's talk? I don't see any questions. Again, that's the time to talk if you have any questions. I'm not seeing any.
There are some questions in the chat, Alan.
Yes, I've seen them already. So there's one directly from STDC help innovators successfully cross the valley of death. Yes, I would say if the definition of valley of death include SMEs and startups company, and other question has been answered already. So thank you very much, Andre.
Thank you.
Let's switch companies. Another example of impact of STDC. So Richard Williston from OSCP. Rick, you can go on stage. That's yours.
Not me.
Are you okay? Yes, Rick, do you hear us?
I can hear you. Okay, so I'm on.
All right.
Now. Great.
Yeah. So Mahmoud, you will be the next one, if you're okay with this. So the floor is yours. You can share your presentation if you want.
Great. Can you see it?
Yes, we are seeing it.
Great.
And maybe just before you begin, the small comments from Aridas Sharma. If you have any frustrating experience you'd like to share, don't hesitate as well.
Okay, well, great, will do. Okay, well, my name is Richard Williston. I'm Director of Operations for One Silicon Chip Photonics. We're a Montreal-based company that is developing an inertial measurement system, which is a navigational sensor, which is usable for autonomous robots, autonomous cars, drone manufacturers. So anywhere you need precise navigation, that's where we hope to be playing. And just to go into a little bit of background information about why you need such a thing, you know, the GPS signal that we all can access is very, very accurate. You can get within a couple centimeters accuracy navigating a vehicle, but the problem is it's not 100% reliable. When you're in this case, there's an image of a vehicle in an urban valley with high rises around. It starts to lose GPS signal, and that's okay. When you're driving down the road, you won't notice the difference. But if there's an autonomous vehicle going down the road and it loses signal, that's a problem. If there's no driver or no driver intervention, it becomes very dangerous very quickly. So you need some kind of backup system which basically covers the in-between until you require GPS signal again. So you can use a cheap MEMS IMU, but those are very inaccurate, and within if you're driving at highway speeds, after just a few minutes, you can have kilometers of inaccuracy. So the only viable solutions that exist are things like fiber optic gyroscopes that you see in the corner there, but those cost $15,000 US or more. So they're used in very precise navigation, and they're accurate enough to navigate these cars, but they're just not affordable. So what we are proposing is, again, on the left-hand side, you have fiber optic gyros and ring laser gyroscopes. They've been around for 50 years. They're very, very accurate. On the right, you have newer MEMS gyroscopes, which are very, very affordable, but not accurate enough. So they're good for consumer electronics and some low-end automotive applications. But again, there's nothing that's in the price range that you need for a vehicle. So this is where you need to be for autonomous vehicles. So you need at least 1 degree per hour accuracy for bias instability, and preferably more like 0.1. The more accurate it is, the longer period of time without GPS signal you can accurately navigate. So with 0.1 degrees, you could probably drive 17 kilometers and still be pretty much where you think you should be, and that's fine. That's where you need to be. So with us, we can make very, very accurate devices, but we're aiming for the yellow square in that region, because our technology is basically integrating the components of a gyro onto one silicon chip and getting it as small and affordable as possible. And we think we can do it for in volume at $500 and potentially less. So just a data point there, I've seen a MEMS gyro that was accurate enough to get into this yellow region, 0.2 degree, I think it was, per hour, but it was $8,500 US. So by the time they made it stable enough and reduced the noise levels enough to navigate in that range, it wasn't cheap enough. So there's a need for this product. And like I said, how we do it is by integrating all the components of a fiber optic gyroscope onto one chip. So on the left-hand side, you have kilometers of fiber to get the sensitivity for a fiber optic gyroscope. We're using recent advancements in waveguide technology, photonic integrated circuits, to make a very, very low loss waveguide ring resonator. And then we can integrate that with phase modulators, lasers, photodetectors, all the other components, and put it onto one chip. And if we do that, it's scalable. You can make a small chip and make wafers of these things, and the price comes down considerably. So that's where we're hoping to get. And at the end, you can, use conventional flip chip or assembly technologies, but most of it will be self-aligned. So that's where we play. How do we get here? With SDTC's help, we initially got one of their seed fund grants. I think it was around 2020, in that range. And what it allowed us to do was prove the concept. We used the money to create a lab scale proof of concept, buying commercial off-the-shelf components and integrating them all together. And that allowed us to prove the technology was viable. And even though what you see on the right-hand side is pretty ugly, I purposely showed that because we've got everything zip tied to a board, because we want to test our axis in three different axes. So we put all the components on there, and all those meters and components probably cost about $30,000. So it's not something we could sell, but at least we were able to show it worked. We got 0.02 degrees per hour bias instability, and being an optical photonic sensing technology, unlike MEMS, it's insensitive to electromagnetic interference, which is a problem for the MEMS units. So at least we established the feasibility. And then we moved on to a 3.2 million grant we applied for, and were granted a 3.2 million grant in late 2021. And this is a multi-year award to create a miniaturized, fully integrated version, put everything on chip, and move the technology towards commercialization. So results so far, what this has allowed us to do is we created in the upper left corner a prototype, a packaged prototype, and we actually tested that at one of our partners, Thales Rail Systems in Markham. And so that this is a picture of their test vehicle, which is on a truck in this case, and we tested it, and we compared it side by side with their current MEMS IMU that they use on trains, and ours was more accurate and worked fine, and at least proved to them that the technology was viable. So that was a great step forward for us. And in the bottom right, we have a photonic integrated circuit chip now, our latest version that we've packaged professionally, just so we can do rapid prototyping. So it has all these fiber pigtails on it, so we can put it into different circuits and test it. But in addition to this, we've also done process development runs at C2MI. We've done 2, and we're currently discussing another one. But we've also engaged with some commercial fabs to get an early introduction to volume manufacturing. So we work with Ligentech, Linex, companies like that. We've been able to do some significant amount of testing at Optech and Ava, companies in Quebec here. That last version I showed you was professionally packaged at Fix, so gives us a robust and integratable package format that we can use for testing. And most of all, we've been able to engage seriously with industry leaders to develop new partnerships in US and Europe, and we're trying to negotiate a consortium to work on a Eureka project with Thales France, a different branch of the same company. We were able to have a booth at the Detroit Auto Show and meet many of the major players in that market. So that was very, a good learning experience for us in meeting these people, and at least they're aware of us now. And we're a semi-finalist in the GAMIC Innovation Challenge, which is for auto sector or mobility companies. We're competing there, and next month we should be able to compete in the finals to see if how well we do there. So it's all about partnership and engagement and being able to move our technology forward in a way that we as a small startup couldn't have done without the additional funding. So it's been very valuable to us. Now, I just wanted to, not leave IRAP out, because I don't know if we've mentioned them yet, but I just found it's interesting how the two payment, like SDTC gives you a payment up front with a small withholding amount at the end. So that's very powerful because it gives you the money to actually go out and spend. And when you're doing research, you learn things and have to make different approaches work, and you've got the money up front. That's great. And you can buy a lot of the needed items up front and then use them throughout the course of the program. That's great. With IRAP, you have to do spend the money first, apply for reimbursement. A certain percentage comes back, and so you're filing claims every month, which has its disadvantages, but it's still very useful because you can combine the two to bring you up to the stacking level. So SDTC said 70%, some government organizations at 75%, but at least maximize the use of the funding that you do get, and have as much as possible to move your technology forward. And one of the advantages of IRAP, I just want to mention, is their IT, or the Industrial Technology Advisor, who's assigned to you, is a good partner. So you're communicating with them almost on a monthly basis, and they have access to connections and things like that to make use of them. So I'm just putting in a plug for IRAP as well. And just finally, here's a list of some of our partners for government use. We've received grants from SDTC, IRAP, Investissement Quebec, and Encore. So that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, my contact information is in the bottom corner, and feel free to ask any questions.
Wow, that's an evolution. I'm a bit biased probably, but I found it really cool that you have been able to use, let's say, the microelectronics Lego blocks to be able to do something that was built before. Very interesting. So do we have any question for Rick? Let me see on the Q&A. I don't see any. Still any question for Rick? All right, thank you very much, Rick, for this, for sharing this feedback. I think, again, the SDTC funding impact is quite clear. And another example of companies that, again, probably I'm a bit biased, but I'm quite excited about this company, Ecology Solution, with Mahmoud, that will share with us his link with SDTC and the company. Thank you, Mahmoud, to be there. That the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alan. Hello,
You're
everyone.
welcome.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, we are hearing you.
Perfect. So thanks, everyone, for your time. Let me just share my screen. I think you already see my screen.
Yes, we are seeing it.
I'm going to put it on full. Perfect. So still seeing my screen well?
Yes, we are.
Great. Perfect. So I'm happy to be with you today. And it's a pleasure to share a bit for our experience in Ecology Solutions, in overall what we do, and also our experience with SDTC. So Ecology is a company with a new technology for thermal management, for an energy storage systems for electric and hydrogen transport. We really started with battery thermal management, but now we're doing more than that. We're doing also fuel cell and power electronics and batteries, and you will see that. So just a few words about us. We're really experts and innovators in thermal management. We started in 2020, so we are a very young company. We hired employee number 1 in January 2020, and today we have 21 employees. So we kind of grew pretty quickly. As I think other companies in this presentation, we continue to generate patents and IP, very important. And our expertise has been identified and mentioned in national and international level. In national level, by the federal government in 2020, we were among the 5 top finalists in Canada for battery innovation. So that was a huge push for us. We received a $700,000 grant, which was really fun. That's really helped at that stage. And also, we were recently selected among top 5 automotive startups worldwide in enabling battery thermal management. You started with automotive, but now we're doing aerospace, a lot of aerospace, and it's fun because they have a lot of money, and for startups, that's perfect. So the problem we are trying to solve is heat generation in components which are really key in the future clean transportation. So battery, fuel cell, and power electronics, all that is DC-DC inverters, they all generate a lot of heat, and it is very important to keep them in the recommended temperature range to be able to maximize their performance. Not doing that has really negative impacts on the safety, performance, price, range anxiety, and a number of other important parameters for really these clean transportation systems. And these are all really major obstacles in the adoption. So if you really want to tackle climate change solution, we need to make it easier for people, general audience actually, to be able to purchase and use these kind of vehicles. So that's our solution. It's really our first product. We call it Unity for uniform temperature. As you can see on the right, it looks like thin metallic sheets. It works based on the heat pipe concept, so liquid vapor phase change. So the metallic sheet is actually only the appearance. Inside, we have thin layers of porous material, a few drops of water, and then the heat transfer is done by liquid vapor phase change. What is unique about this component is that it has a thermal conductivity 10 times more than copper, which means that it can transport it very easily with a very small temperature drop, and providing a very uniform temperature for the fuel cell and battery cells. And this is important because this uniform temperature can actually reduce aging, cell aging by 30%. This is a huge number. We measured that experimentally, and we showed it to our partners. And this can actually lead to cost reduction by 10% for EVs, because less cells are required to attach, basically, to reach a certain performance at the end. We can increase range in winter conditions, and also our system is 100% passive. There's no connections, a very reliable system. It is also chemistry agnostic. So for batteries, for example, LFP, NMC, doesn't matter. It can work well with all of them, and it can also be used with different type of cells, which makes it interesting for different markets and applications. What is also unique about this technology is that Unity combined with air cooling offers the same thermal performance as the traditional liquid cooling, which is really exciting for the industry. This is what really like about this technology, because air cooling is easier. It's like what you have in your computers. It's easier. It's basically more reliable. It's cheaper. But people are using liquid cooling because air cooling today is not very good for transporting heat, but we combine it with our Unity and we get the same thermal performance, which is very interesting. So this is our second product. I'm not sure if you hear the music, but I turned it off anyway. This is our battery. We call it Emotive. So we built this battery based on our Unity technology. Basically, the idea here is that Unity is being integrated in the casing of the battery. So the casing of the battery does two things. It supports structurally the cells, and it also transports heat in a very efficient way. This is a battery that we have built initially for low-speed vehicles, so like last-mile delivery vehicles. But quite accidentally, we noticed that it's a very good product for aerospace, because it is very compact. It has a very high energy density. It can be fast charged in less than an hour, and basically it is air cooled, which is great for all the applications that like electric eVTOLs and electric helicopters and even hydrogen helicopters. All of those projects are mostly in the development phases, but still they need our battery, and we have sold it successfully up to now to multiple companies. Another thing that's interesting about our product is that it's 100% recyclable. We are working with the company Lithium, and basically to get their stamp of approval on our product, so that at the end of the useful life of the battery, the customers know that they can basically dispose of it in a very environmental friendly fashion. So that's our second product. In terms of partners and customers, for lithium ion batteries thermal management, we are now working with multiple partners. We're working with large OEMs, automotive OEMs, with aerospace companies. You're seeing some of the names here. For hydrogen fuel cell, we're working with Safran in France, and Bell Helicopters, also Mercedes, with Uniter, and power electronics. We're working also with some German companies that you see the name here. So a pretty broad range of the companies we can work with actually. For the larger, bigger ones, if they need just the components like the automotives, we just sell them the thermal management solution. And for the smaller ones, more niche markets, we sell them the complete solution, which is the battery, including our thermal management. I think one important part of this presentation is that how to basically make best of the most of the environment. So basically partners, governmental partners around us. For us, it's really been key in our growth and development. I think it was mentioned by other partners too. You see the names. It's just impossible to do this in Canada without using the governmental support. Unfortunately, we have that a lot here. So of course, NRC, so IRAP Paris, that's one thing. We were also really lucky to be selected in 2020 in the competition that I just mentioned, $700,000. It was offered by Natural Resources Canada. So, of course, it was a huge help for us. We're working also, we have received some funding from NGen, Next Generation Manufacturing. This one is not, unfortunately, known that much in Quebec, but in Ontario, it's a very, very popular program. It's amazing if you want to buy equipment. If like us, you're a manufacturing company, you need machines and equipment, this program is great because it can reimburse 50% of the cost of the CapEx and large machines, which is very unique. I haven't seen it in other programs. We are also, very actively involved in the research environment in Quebec. So we are part of CRIAC. We have projects with them. We're part of Innove. We work with them. We have research project at the Sherbrooke University, also in collaboration with Concordia, McGill, ETS. So some of the other universities, I don't see the logos here, but very actively we work with almost with all of the universities here in Quebec. So this is really important to build upon this ecosystem around you. Otherwise, it will be very expensive, very difficult to really develop the product and your technology. In terms of STDC, more specifically, we were also part of the companies that received the seed fund. We received only $75K because we had at the time some complexity with the type of the investment that we had initially. So maybe one question for Anne, just after the presentation, you could maybe mention that right now, what type of the investment is actually admissible for the seed fund? Is it like convertible notes? Safe? Is all of those acceptable or not? At the time, I remember we had some complexity, so we couldn't get the 100K, but even the 75K was great. So, and the other important part of that seed fund is that you become part of the CDC portfolio. So that makes it much easier later to get back to them and get funding from them. Another good thing for the STDC is their training sessions and networking events. Especially they have this, I think, leader conference, if I'm not mistaken about the name. It's a one-day event in Ottawa, and that's really great because it's a great place to see the really the Canadian environment. Everyone in the clean tech, the important ones are there, so it's a very good place to be. And also, I think it was mentioned by other companies, really increases your credibility in the green tech environment, makes it much easier later to talk to people. And there are a lot of VCs that actually look at the name of the companies in the SDDC portfolio, and then they contact you. They say, oh yeah, we have seen the name of your company there. So that's really important. Right now, we have submitted a project to SDDC, a $5 million project, in collaboration with Technical and basically we are going to complete the development of our battery modules and a pilot manufacturing line to build them, because that's part of the manufacturability actually is an important part of the design, and we want to be able to build them in a line, not only some prototypes. That's an important step for us. The role of SDDC, I think, in Canada is really critical, because in the US, you have a lot of VCs. In Canada, it's much it's less available compared with the US, and also it's hard to work with them because they don't really that much fund R&D. So for R&D, SDDC is great, and you just can get some money and then match it with SDDC, and allows you actually to do some big project. If you're in Quebec, Technical is there also, which is great. So you can reach the 70% or a bit less than that for the funding, and then it really allows you to move ahead quickly in your work. That was my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to jump in. If not, I have a question actually for Anne. I asked, so if she could jump in and explain. I think that would be useful to everyone now.
And actually, as I see no question directly in the conversation, that would be an excuse maybe to the speaker to open their cameras and turn this into a discussion, as the first question popped from Mahmoud for Anne. But before just jumping into these answers, Anne, Mahmoud, I probably have a question or maybe a comment on the Arrow project. Would you mind just give me so few words on this? It's so exciting. I just want the people who knows if they didn't heard about this project, this Canadian vehicle. So if you don't mind just talking about this few minutes.
Sure, yeah. So Project Arrow is actually a project to build 100% Canadian EV. So that has been the first part of it. The design, actually, the initial exterior design, I would say, has been done already. So there is a prototype now. It's being shown around. I think they're now in the US. They're showing it around. And Calogy is going to provide the thermal management solution for this project. We might actually provide the whole battery module. We still don't know that. That really depends on the partners, because I think they need a integrator for the battery pack overall. And the thermal management is actually a kind of like a chassis for the vehicle. It's really the base of the whole battery. Everything else is put around it or in it or on it, so depending on the design. And so the company that does the thermal management really has the control. Well, it has some level of control on the battery. So that's still to be seen if we do the battery or not. But for sure, thermal management is going to be done by Calogy, and it's a great honor for us to be part of that project.
Wow, congratulations. 100% Canadian vehicle. I mean, with all what we are talking about, the supply chain, go back to North America, having 100% Canadian vehicle, that made me think about Elvis Gratton saying, think big, Steve, but that's another story.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mahmoud, for this parenthesis. So let's speak to the speakers. What are your reactions regarding all that you see? We have seen companies that have used the SDDC, and what was your feedback of companies? We have a question about maybe frustrating experience that you have managed to feel or to change. What are your reaction into this?
Well, I love that panel because it made me feel great about my job. So thank you for praising SDDC. I'm glad this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to help the ecosystem thrive. We can't do it alone. So, we still need the private sector to come in. And as you said, we need patient capital. We need VCs that are willing to invest in hardware, capital intensive, long-term to commercialization. And I'm finding it a bit difficult right now to find those VCs because it's always more attractive to invest in a software, quick turn to market, low capex investment. But we need those strategic investments to build a country. So I'm glad. So thank you for working towards giving us a sustainable future. To answer Mahmoud's comment, the seed fund, we're working on it. So because we're not able to do financial due diligence, we're piggybacking back on somebody else's investment. So right now, what we accept are equity or saves from accredited investors. So that's any institutional or accredited investors, can be high net worth individuals. Now we've opened it up a little bit to maybe considering revenues. So sometimes companies already have revenues and they're realizing that they can pivot and do a bit more of R&D and get a lot of environmental benefits on their innovation. So we are considering revenues as proof of commercial traction. And it's not all is lost. We've given a mandate to the Monk School to review our financing eligibility criteria, especially for Quebec, because I think there's still this discrepancy between Canada and Quebec, and the rest of Canada is working with SAVES, whereas Quebec is working with convertible notes. So right now it is, so we've raised that issue, and the Monk School is looking into that to see if we, and I hope we do. I think we should accept convertible notes. I know this is being recorded, so I'm putting my job in jeopardy here, but the convertible notes, I believe, should be accepted. We're looking into it, but you have to be patient. We are a federal organization.
Yeah, well, I hope you do that, and that's good, because I remember 2 years ago we had to change all our convertible note to SAFE. So that was good for us, because eventually SAFE is, to be honest with you, better for the startup compared with convertible note. But yeah, that's an important point, I think, for the companies.
I heard in that way that you're flexible and an SDTC trying to adapt to the demand, to the needs that you have. Is there any others that want to react to this?
Maybe I add another point, and also I think a suggestion, maybe just as a food for thought. I think SDTC can also help kind of the VC environment in Canada too. The VC environment in Canada is very, very conservative. As you said, they don't like manufacturing. It's just, for them it's too long, too complicated, too capex intensive. Whereas that's really the manufacturing that can really create jobs and bring and generate really wealth for the country. So that's really critical. So I think one aspect is financial aspect, just the money wise. Basically, I don't know if SDTC can find a way or program or something to encourage them actually to jump more on board. The second thing is the problem we faced once was the lack of the experts lead investors, basically, because the lead investor needs really to know the field. They need to have the resources to do due diligence, and they cannot. In our field, we couldn't find anyone who would do that, so we had a hard time. That's another story how we could get out of that situation. But I think with the resources that SDTC has in terms of scientific evaluation and everything, I think it can really play an important role in that solving the lead investor problem.
So Mahmoud, I'm so glad you bring this up, but this is widening this discussion to funding hardware ventures. I was presenting at Fondation yesterday. I was meeting with their investment teams, and I was raising exactly that. Right now, the VCs I'm seeing want to do software, very impatient capital light investments. So I'm seeing a glut right now in financing long-term hardware solutions. So I'm very aware of that. And an additional problem we have is that, so nobody wants to lead. They tell companies, find yourself a lead. Nobody has the experience, so they say, find yourself a strategic. So companies turn around and go talk to an international strategic investor, and then we get two problems. The first one, the investor says, well, I'm not interested in buying three guys with a little technology. I'll just buy the technology from you right away. So we invest in the R&D, because most of the time it comes from universities. Then we invest in the demonstration project, which might take up to 5 years. And when it's proven and it's working, then it gets acquired by an international company. So I find that very, very disappointing in terms of what I'm trying to accomplish with my mandate. Or they also get an investment from a strategic investor, and then we at SDTC say, oh la la, they might get acquired. There won't be any long-term Canadian advantage. So I'm very aware of this. I'm trying to, I've spoken with L'Auxerrois, I'm speaking to Fondation. I'm trying to raise the fact that this is a problem. But Mahmoud, remember, SDTC offers grants. It's free. We're financing a third. We accept 70%. It cannot be 100% government funded. You know, we need to see some private sector in there, and it is proving difficult. I totally agree. So I'm starting this campaign to try to find the right people to help with this glut.
Yeah, and if I may add, I mean, that's great what you just said, but my point was that maybe through another program, so basically SDTC could work directly with VCs, you know, partner with VCs, basically pushing VCs to go into that direction, not the companies. So the companies still has to work with VCs, but at least VCs kind of see more support and less risk for them.
Yeah,
I don't know how, honestly.
There's one thing we offer, Mahmoud, and I think it was mentioned. We do share our technological due diligence with potential investors, provided, of course, the company says yes. So I do organize calls between VCs and our teams, and we reassure the investors in terms of the technology. However, if their investment thesis is not in hardware and they're just not going to come to the call. So the problem seems to be in the model of the VCs out there right now. But we absolutely offer our due diligence for our portfolio companies when investors are looking into them.
Perfect, thanks.
I would be curious, André and Rick, to have your input into this discussion regarding, you know, the relationship, not directly with SDTC, but with VCs as well.
Well, this is all very familiar to us because we've been through all these hoops as well. And we've even gone so far to engage with SDTC and IRAP and try to find connections to potential investors. And we even had some that said that, like, we had trouble finding a lead as well. And we found one. We went through due diligence with a couple companies that said, "Oh yeah, we could lead." And in the end, they say, "Oh no, we'll follow," because they really aren't familiar enough with our technology. And when you're doing something that different, it's a cop-out, let's say, but they've chosen to not lead, and so we're still, you know, working through with another potential source for lead investment. So it's a headache, let's just say, and we've had it for a while.
I was going to add, before last week, before Silicon Valley Bank went down, I would have answered that question by saying, well, venture debt is a very interesting alternative. But the discussions I've had with different banks in the last week is that the startups and scale-ups, a lot of those projects are on pause right now as you know, the world looks at, you know, the banking crisis. You have banks like Comerica that in the high-tech sector, especially in the Ottawa Valley, have funded many companies alongside SDTC, BDC, EDC. And now Comerica is scaling back. We completed a loan with them, and they're just on pause right now. They're not, you know, interested in, you know, venture debt in the short term. So there's another challenge where there was a venue for Series B, C type investments. You used to have venture loans with tier 2 banks. Now that you know, that right now, I'm not saying it's gone for good, but for the next few months, I think we'll have to see how that plays out. So that adds to the concern. Now, EDC is another good area to tap into, because for those who have revenue, it does allow you to, they have capital growth loans, and they have full insurance on, you know, allows you to get traditional bank financing on lines of credit if you do have revenue. So I think the challenge for us is to diversify our funding and try to be a little creative. And there are sources in the US that are more aggressive than Canadian. So going for the VC US market is important, but what we found is you need to have a valuation that's high enough so that the dilutive impact of the US investors is small. And that's what we were able to do through SDTC, and another partner that we found, alongside SDTC is SIF. So SIF, alongside EDC and IRAP, they've funded about 40% of some of our projects, and it's huge. And now our valuation is quite high. So when we've invited US investors in, they only take maybe 5%. So so the timing of your financial roadmap is really critical. And in the early days, SDTC is critical, along with SIF. If you can get those two together, you're well on your way.
Oh, if I may add something that might help companies. When we do due diligence and we approve companies for projects, if you haven't finalized your investing partner, of course, we can't fund you. However, we can provide a letter of intent that says so, saying we've reviewed the technology, and if somebody is willing to put the 30%, we'll jump right in. So that can be used as leverage.
Another thing, Anne, I found is when we've been pitching about greenhouse gas savings, SDTC did significant due diligence on that, and we were able to use, with permission from SDTC, the data and the support from SDTC to give credibility to our research and our data. So it helped. It was confirmatory diligence for some of the big players that have joined our financing group. So there are quite a few benefits.
So what I tell investors is that, and it's true, SDTC has more engineers than BlackRock. So in terms of, but it's true. So in terms of we're probably the most technical and the most sophisticated clean tech funder in Canada. So I'm hoping the SDTC stamps help, and we are willing to open our books. We're not sharing all our documents, but we're organized phone calls, and we try to reassure investors and present what we found, and that due diligence and that EBs for companies. So we're doing the best we can. We just can't finance it 100%.
One thing I found in my travels that there's competition in Ontario and Quebec. I've worked in Quebec. I worked in Ontario, and sometimes I'd hope, maybe naively, that there could be more interprovincial collaboration. So we've, we work with McGill, Université de Sherbrooke, IBM, C2MI, others, and sometimes the government agencies tell me to pick a lane, Ontario or Quebec, and it's a shame because we need both. Yeah, we're highly and a little bit in Alberta, but we're highly concentrated in Quebec, Ontario. But sometimes if we get help from one side, it shuts the door on the other side. So maybe I need to talk to Minister Champagne about interprovincial collaboration.
And also there's a limit to the government stacking. So, if you have federal and then you have provincial, well, it can be Ontario or Quebec, but there's a limit,
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Actually, that's opened a door for me, that I had a question for all of you. Mahmoud, you have talked about the ecosystems, and I think that we are in a world that you cannot survive if you're not part of the ecosystems. I mean, an horizontal organic ecosystems versus the known supply chain, which is completely linear and vertical. What about your company? So the question is maybe more for the entrepreneur. What was the ecosystem impact? Because if we are here together today, that's because that thanks to the ecosystems with SDTC, with all the companies, with C2MI. So what's the impact of the ecosystems in your business?
I would say from our side, if we had not this ecosystem that we have today, we wouldn't be here. For me, it's clear, because ecosystem is everything. You need partners. You need, funding, you need expertise. I mean, expertise, we talk about funding, but expertise is also important. We work a lot with CCTT here in Quebec. So basically, Collégial Centre Recherche Collégiale. So a lot, we work with them. They're really good. They're really basically very applied. And sorry. And so that's part of the story. The other part of the story that, you know, we unfortunately in Quebec, at least we miss, is the large companies, big companies that could really push and drive the startups. I saw that I was in actually with the Quebec delegation. I was in South Korea last week, and there everything revolves around Samsung, LG, and SK. So they are really funding the startups, pushing this, I mean, pushing, motivating the startups. They give the problems to solve. Really a big support for the companies. In Germany, I mean, of course, you have those large Siemens, you have Mercedes, BMW. They really push the startups. Here in Canada, unfortunately, we don't have that. In Quebec, at least, we really don't have. We have large companies, but they don't have this culture of working with the startups and support. It's funny, I always say that, I mean, we're working with European companies, but we have this giant company in like 50 kilometers from us in Sherbrooke. We're not working with them because they don't have the structure. We don't know how to work with each other. Really in Quebec, we really lack that. The only part in my experience in Quebec that has more experience in this kind of collaboration is aerospace. Traditionally, they have been really more structured. So even now, we see much more openness and you know, collaboration with them, but with others, I haven't seen really.
That's very interesting. Thank you for your input, Mahmoud. As we have about a minute left, do you guys have a word that you want us to remember, or any, let's say, slogan that you want us to remember?
Well, I'm going to start. I'm going to say, if you're working on a technology that's going to bring us closer to a sustainable future, please reach out to me. I have money for you.
Nice. That's recorded.
No one will forget that.
Yeah, for sure. So, as the time is leaving now, let me thanks to the speakers. Thank you very much in the name, on my name and in the name of C2MI. Thank you very much for your time. I know that you're quite busy, so thank you very much to share your experience into this. And just before the last landing, don't hesitate to give us any feedback, positive, negative, just constructive feedback. We want to get better and better, so don't hesitate. And don't forget that you can subscribe to our newsletters as well, C2MI's newsletter, and our LinkedIn. Don't hesitate. So just go back to this, and if you have any question, we will send you the presentation with the approval of each one of you. So if you have any question, don't hesitate to contact me directly, and I'll be proud and excited to answer. Thank you very much all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Good
Bye.
night.
Thank you. Bye.